Just thank the council, mayor, and all of our management team for all the effort putting this budget together. It was an interesting year because of legislative changes that was made in the middle of the budgeting process, and so that was all taken into account as part of this budget. This budget does propose that the property tax rate of $14.3123 cents per thousand of taxable value continue for the fourth year at that particular rate. Also continued with the planned water use rate increase that started last year and the solid waste user rate increase as well. The chief goals of the budget were to pass a balanced budget, maintain the property tax rate when possible, maintain sufficient fund balances, and to provide high-quality public services. The challenges included generally rising costs, planning for the future needs, and recovery from the COVID pandemic, which we saw, we're continuing to see changes from the COVID pandemic. Property tax in Iowa is categorized in classes. There's one less class this year, and that's multifamily, is now wrapped into general residential. So there's residential, commercial, industrial, utilities, and agricultural. There's a growth limitation imposed on each class to eliminate dramatic tax increases between classes, and the reduction to that growth limitation is called the rollback. In this chart, you can see the changes that were made this current year. From fiscal 23 on residential, it was paid at 54.1302 was the rollback, and in the current year, it's 54.6501, or the current budget that we're working on. The other major change in this area was the multi-residential. That class was eliminated. And so the rollback for that went from 63.75 down to the general residential of 54.6501. So as you can tell, we have a significant amount of multifamily residential in Coralville, so that was a significant change this year. This just shows that rollback history. And so in fiscal year 92, which is on the left of the chart, we started at about 80%, and we are now down to 54.6. So that's a significant change in those percentages. This just shows what the impact of the residential rollback is. So if you had a value of $100,000 residential property, the taxable value would increase by $520 because of that change in the rollback. The tax rate is proposed to stay the same at the 14.3123, so that would result in the city's portion of the property tax increasing by $7.44 on an annual basis. In the commercial case, for commercial properties, that rollback stayed the same. So if you had a $500,000 valued property, that would now be taxable value of $450,000, and so the taxes on that property would not change. This just shows a little bit about the history of the commercial property tax reform legislation that started in 2013, which allowed for a rollback in the commercial and industrial property category. In 2022, our rollback was $1,482,000. That's provided by the state. In fiscal year 29, that dollar amount will be down to zero. The city's property tax levy is made up of several different categories: general fund, tort liability, which is insurance, transit, trust and agency for employee benefits, and then debt service. This just shows once again that the city tax levy rate from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24 is staying the same. We just remind folks as you're considering this, and we're talking about $14.3123, that is just a portion of your overall property tax. There are several other entities that levy property tax. Their rates, because all of those have not been set, the Coralville rate is the current or the upcoming year. The other rates are what the current year that we're in, their levy rate is. And so you can see that a little less than a third of the property tax comes to the city of Coralville, and there's other entities. So we just encourage people to look at what the total bill is and don't make a mistake on how much that levy is going to be. This just shows you once again the highest percentage of property taxes is the Iowa City Community School District. Remind folks that we do have two school districts in Coralville, the Clear Creek Amana and then the Iowa City Community School District. So your tax rate will be different depending on which school district that you live in. So just make that note as well. The city of Coralville is 39%, Johnson County is 16%, and then Kirkwood, Ag Extension, State of Iowa, and the assessors are a much smaller percentage. The general fund is made up of several major operating resources, and the two for taxes being property tax and then the hotel and motel tax. Under licensing and permits, we have building permits and rental housing inspections is a significant portion. And then under uses of money and property, that's interest and rental income. Intergovernmental, we have grants and then 2080 contracts with other governmental agencies. Charges for services would be like recreational program fees, and then other financing sources would be borrowings and interfund transfers. The estimated revenue for fiscal year 24 for the general fund, this is just the general fund portion, is projected to be $30,871,102. That would be a 4.6% increase from fiscal year 23. The general fund supports things such as public safety, health and social services, culture and recreation, community and economic development, general government, and contingencies. This chart in front of you just shows you the revenues and the breakdowns of those percentages, and as expected, the property tax is 42% of the overall general fund budget. Hotel motel tax is 10% of that budget, and then there's various other sources that make up the rest of those funds. Under the expenditures, this is just a listing of that same $30,871,000 split amongst the departments. Parks and Recreation is the largest percentage of the budget, that is 29%. Police, fire, and animal control, those three combined, make up 25% of our budget. Then it goes down from there of various sources. The road use tax, that takes care of our streets, snow removal, traffic signals. That's allocated by the state of Iowa, and it's based on our last census. And the estimate for that is that we'll be getting $130 per person to make up a total a dollar amount of $2.9 million for that particular department. This just shows that the total for the road use department is $4,008,682. And then those expenses below that come out of that department: roadway maintenance, snow removal, traffic safety, street lighting, engineering, and street cleaning. In the enterprise fund area for public transit, parking, stormwater, and wastewater, there is no change in rate structure for those services proposed. There is a proposed increase This will be the second year for the increase in the water and solid waste areas. This just shows you on this chart that the current monthly rate for residential for the first 200 cubic feet of water is $7.44, and the proposed increase is $7.85, and then the various other categories under that. These funds will go towards future water and system improvements, which will include additional wells that we need to improve to continue to provide the supply that we need. Also, there will be some improvements in the distribution system throughout the city as well. Solid waste, that would go up from $18.92 to $20.67 per month, and that's for a 35-gallon, and for a 65-gallon container, it'll go from $21.75 up to $23.50. Just would note that as part of this, it will be covering all of our fees for recycling, which has become more expensive because of the lack of demand for that material. And it will also cover our change in drop site location, and then in the coming year, we will be working towards a new home recycling program, which will be a commingled system. The three challenges that we just note in the budget continues to be solid waste and the generally increasing cost, the increasing cost of the drop site and recycled materials. As I stated, the values are fluctuating and typically declining. Public transit, we continue to have declining ridership, increases in paratransit costs, and then one-time federal funding that came because of COVID is projected to last through FY26. So that's the time frame where we'll see significant changes in the budget and funding for public transit. And then just note property tax and then unknown legislative action. There was changes this year that happened in the middle of the budgeting season, and there are proposed changes for next year, which we do not know at this time what those proposed changes will be. This proposed budget includes in public transit the replacement of a paratransit bus, in the police department replacement of the car and body camera system. The police will also be purchasing a de-escalation use of force virtual reality simulator. Streets will continue with a system of street repairs, patching, and sealing. Solid waste will be replacing a recycling truck. The library will continue the Community Resource Navigator program. The recreation has addition of a recreation supervisor position, and then the Coralville Center for the Performing Arts has staff related to the expansion of our education programming. The enterprise funds, this just lists all of the funds, sources and uses of funds for our enterprises, which includes water, wastewater, solid waste, stormwater management, parking, transit, and the Hyatt Regency Hotel and Conference Center. This will be filed, this budget, if approved by the council, will be filed on April 30th with Johnson County and the state. And once again, this will be effective July 1st, 2023 and run through June 30th, 2024. And once again, encourage people to go to our website, coralville.org, come to City Hall, or go to the Coralville Public Library, and you can get a lot more information on the budget.